The COB is brought to you by Pepperstone, trusted by traders in over 160 countries. From Barangaroo Studios, here's what you need to know about the day in business and finance.
Right, welcome to the COB. I'm Juliet Sarli. It is Thursday. We have had a down day on the market today. The ASX 200 looks like it's going to close lower by about 0.5%. It's off 42,786 points today. And that's really due to a big drag that we've seen through in the miners. So let's have a look at our three themes, those Thursday blues, as we do see metals grind to a halt. So it's not only some of the weakness that you've seen in some of these base metals and also gold that has dragged down a number of the players. So that gold drop seeing Evolution off by more than 4%, Newmont off by more than 3%. But of course, as well, the British mining giant Anglo American saying no deal to its suitor BHP. BHP has come after Anglo 3 times now. The latest offer was nearly $74 billion. Anglo says no, but they have given BHP another week to sweeten the offer. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And the deadline is May 29. What's really interesting about this is that is also a very important day in South Africa, where Anglo American has its base from, and of course is still of significant importance to that country. But if Anglo says no to BHP for a 4th time, then under UK takeover rules, they do have to walk away for 6 months. So one that we continue to watch, and BHP shares down by 3.3% today at $44.85. And of course, that just really pulls through into the takeover drama that we were talking about as well. I wanted to talk quickly about Xero too. That was a really another interesting stock today. I love looking at the market map on Iris. It just has such a big array of colors, and Xero was a fluoro green today, which indicates, of course, that it is one of the front runners. In fact, I think it was the best performer today, up 8.4% after its results. And that just, of course, continues on that theme in terms of tech, in terms of AI, and on the back of what we had seen with Nvidia's results really blowing it out of the water in the US. Let's have a quick look at some of the sectors, and kicking it off with the tech space today. I also had a really interesting chat with the Wiser CEO, Andrew Goodwin, which you can find up on the website in the next half hour or so. Xero, as I mentioned, looking good, as did NextDC. WiseTech Global pretty flat. Technology One was in the news yesterday. It was down by 1%. Having a quick look as well at the miners, BHP, as I mentioned, down 3.3%, but the weakness that you did see in commodity prices just dragging on the other majors as well. When it comes to the utilities sector, a little bit mixed there. Meridian Energy looking okay, up by about 0.4%. And getting to some of these top corporate stories, Origin Energy was in focus, delaying the closure of its Abraring power station in New South Wales following a new deal with the state's government. And that is really interesting in terms of the fact that Yuli from Blackmore had a really interesting conversation with Nadine that you can find on our website. I'm going to go old school and give you these numbers as we go. Origin is up 1.5% to $10.34. We touched on Xero, up 8.4%, $134.58 after its reported surging revenue in its latest full-year financial report. The Reject Shop also is in focus, warning of a drop in earnings despite seeing recent improving sales at its stores. The Reject Shop down 5.4% to $3.49. And Ingham's, another stock, up by about 10 cents, $2.64, $3.69. Investors pricing concerns surrounding a reported outbreak of bird flu. And New Farm was the stock of the day after posting some lower profits and falling revenue in the face of challenging conditions in its latest half-year report. Shares down by about 7%. All right, technology will get the better of all of us. But let's welcome to the COB Jimmy Jiang from Macro. Now, you're looking at the big move in uranium, Jimmy.
Absolutely. One of the main sectors that we're looking at right now is uranium for a couple of reasons. So the uranium, obviously, prices have eased to about $91 per pound with that 2-month high that we've seen so far. The supply concern also remain due to that some of the output downgrades from the major countries like Canada and also the bullish long-term outlook on uranium is also fueling the price of uranium so far. So the other really important aspect that we've seen a couple of weeks ago was that the price sharply rose with the prospect of the Washington's ban that's coming up, and also the possibility that Moscow will be retaliated with the stricter export ban. So most importantly, and also recently, the US and also the other 20 countries also announced that they plan to at least triple their exposure and also their nuclear power by 2050. And China leading that bet right now with the building 22 of the 58 global reactors, while Japan restarted that project of the global reactors as well.
So where are you looking at macro capital for the best exposure to this theme?
We have a couple of names that we have in the pipe at the moment, but the name that we recently entered into is Lotus Resources. Great name. They have projects in Africa and New South Wales, and they recently just completed that $30 million share placement that allowed that rapid ramp up of planned FEED program, which obviously encompasses all the aspects of detailed design to prepare the projects that's ongoing. The reason why the capital raising is something we're looking into is because we don't want the companies to continuously raise capital to dilute the shares as soon as we get in. So we kind of keep an eye on what are the companies in the sector that have already completed the share placement and then enter it with ourselves.
I'm just looking at a chart, a long-term chart. So it's at 46 cents, up about 156% per year. It sort of just looks like it's gone like this, but you're seeing further room for growth.
Absolutely,
for
yeah, that's right. The outlook on the uranium at the moment is looking really positive from our perspective, with some of the rationale I just shared with you. But the upside that we're probably looking at, or the target price, is probably additional about 50%, 40 to 50% is our target price with this name. And we also need to remember it is an $800 million market cap company. So we want to make sure that the exposure or the upside is very great from our perspective, but the exposure that we want to allocate into our portfolio is where we mitigate the risk. So we've allocated close to about 3 to 5% of our portfolio into this name.
I wanted to get your thoughts in terms of as well what we've been seeing with the bigger miners. I mean, BHP, as I mentioned, just aggressively continuing to go up to Anglo. It swallowed up Oz Minerals last year, or 2 years ago, I should say. What's your take on some of these big miners? Are they sort of fairly priced?
Yeah, the BHP is probably something that we've entered 2-3 weeks ago. We already had BHP for a long time, but we started to accumulate some more exposure with BHP, especially with that about 15% drop that we've seen since December last year. And another name that we're also looking at is Fortescue Metals Group. Is another really good name that we are slowly accumulating in our portfolio. Obviously, the main reason is that the federal budget that was announced, has a huge push on the hydrogen sector. So Fortescue Metals has placed a huge bet this year to increase that hydrogen division. So that's another thing that we're also looking forward to.
What's your price target for Fortescue? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, we're probably looking at probably 10 to 15% upside for the time being, because we're only allocating probably about 2 to 3% on our portfolio. And then if we find a bit more certainties with these names, then we'll probably accumulate another 3 to 4% comfortably.
So that's fascinating, because that's going to get Fortescue close to $30, probably a record. So many people have a sell on this stock that continues to defy, because we keep seeing iron ore going up. How are you sort of viewing that overall demand picture from China?
The demand from China is, the Chinese economy is slowly, turning around with, the inflation. The government is really pushing to bring it back up to the level that they used to be. And also from our perspective, we want to ensure that, these names are not overly allocated just because of the names and also the sector that it is in. So from our perspective, we just want to make sure that we don't probably over allocating into BHP or Fortescue just because of the names, and the federal budget is obviously something that one of the main rationale as to why it's slowly accumulated that Fortescue Metals Group exposure. But probably just want to have a small exposure as we go.
Excellent. Great debut on the COB, Jimmy. Hope to see you again soon. Jimmy Jiang from Macro with us here with some really good calls on the likes of BHP, Rio, and of course, Fortescue, I should say, and of course, Lotus, which they really like in that uranium space. Getting back to the stock of the day, it was New Farm. We had Daniel Ortiz from Stock Doctor and Mark Gardner from MPC Market sharing their take on that stock on the call.
Yeah, with New Farm, still got 1.2 billion in net debt on the balance sheet, which kind of surprised me. So just the weakness at the moment. Look, inventory levels as well as a concern in terms of the products they hold. So there could be further discounting, just not where I'd want to be right now, even though the stock has been sold down quite a bit.
And with this reporting, because it's been backward looking and they've been quite bleak,
Right.
it's a very, very different outlook. It's very positive. So you're sort of taking advantage of the fact that people who aren't watching the ag stocks closely, you can buy
Right.
that dip. So,
Right.
so yeah, we still hold elders. We switched out of some elders into New Farm today just because of the pricing. We recently sold Grain Corp, but we've done very well.
All right, the market has officially closed for another day. Let's have a look at some of the winners and losers this Thursday. Fletcher Building, not really sure why it's up 10%, but a good day for those who are holding Fletcher. $2.97 is where it's finishing. Xero, we've talked about after its update, a very impressive gain today, up 8.4%, $134.58. Collins Food, Helios and Treasury Wine Estate. I make this joke every Thursday, but Treasury Wine Estate does seem to go up the closer to the weekend it is. Not saying there's a correlation there, that's just my bad. I'm not even a mum, but my bad joke. Let's have a look at the losers today. New Farm, this market update really was not liked today. New Farm shares down by almost 8%. And then we talked about the fact that gold stocks came under pressure. So you've got Bellevue, Regis also falling today, and some of those other metals players too, as we saw a bit of a pullback in commodities. Let's get to the small cap winners and losers now. Helios Energy had a great day, up by 21%. Plenty, I was talking to the Wiser CEO earlier, and Plenty was also in the news in terms of some of these fintechs. It was up 15%, SmartPay as well, up by about 10%. To the downside today, Elevate Uranium, Catalyst Metals, Carnaby Resource, Gold Hydrogen and New World Resources all under pressure. Let's have a look at what we are expecting tonight, and we've got PMIs coming out of the EU. Those unemployment claims as well, which are always closely watched in the US, and also their PMIs, and Canada coming out with its new housing price index. Tomorrow, Friday, let's have a look what is happening here locally. New Zealand consumer confidence and trade balance, CPI out of Japan. And we've got earnings as well, just rounding it out with a pretty busy week from Fisher and Paykel Healthcare. All right, wrapping up the overall market close today when we have a look at the ASX 200. It is down 0.6%, 43.7,804. And the CBO has finally decided to join us. There it is, down by 0.8%. It is at 1,498 points. As I mentioned, with some of those weaker moves, I should say, on the ASX, Regis and New Farm were the worst performers. And it really was this battle between the miners and the tech players and the healthcare stocks. So overall, a down day, off by about 0.5%. But as they say in Out of Green Gables, tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it. We'll be back from 9:40 and see what markets have in store for us in terms of whether we might see a turnaround to end out the week. We'll be back from 9:40 Eastern. We'll see you then tomorrow.
The COB is brought to you by Pepperstone, trusted by traders in over 160 countries.
Gil.
Oh, hey, Ken.
Here we go.
You're still trading?
Pepperstone. Trusted in over 160 countries. You?
Well, I'm still with...
I don't think anyone trusts them.
No, I'm fine with it. Just like I'm fine with my trusty coach. 1980s John McEnroe.
Pathetic! Horrible! 1980s, huh? So, really temperamental?
Keeps me on my toes.
Awful! It's a bit intense.
Be better.
Still fine with it.
Use your racket.
He's just staring at us.
Yeah, sometimes he yells and then sometimes he just stares.
Is he aiming for your face, Gil?
He's fine with it.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to hit you.
Fine with it.
Don't be fine with it. Switch to Pepperstone, trusted by traders in over 160 countries.
Come on, you cannot be serious.
Don't do that.
Ow.